Welcome to Living Chassidus. Together, let's live the Chassidus we learn.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Chassidus in the Morning. I have 15 minutes to change our lives. Kuntres and we're up to Perek Gimel. Just a quick summary we've said until now, Perek Aleph base, that in Perek Aleph we talked about there's an idea basically of shtus. There's shtus, which we sort of translated as sort of two things. There's sishta, is turning away, and shtus. And so we discussed that, and we talked about how the Yetzer Hara is the one that makes us do this. That on one hand, he tells us, he turns us away from the Derech HaEmes, the path of truth. And then he comes to us and he says, and Yetzer Hara says, gets us in trouble for what we did. That was said in the first parak. In the second parak, we talked about different types of pleasure. There's pleasure of food, there's pleasure of music, there's pleasure of kindness, of doing things, not kindness, of emotions, of middays, meaning doing things. But in that, we have to make sure that there's also different levels. And it could be that we're doing something kind, not because we've used our seichel, but just because we're naturally wanting to do these things, and we could be doing, it's actually the wrong thing, like the example that he gives here in the notes. It's like a child crying because they want a knife. And so, you want to be kind, you don't want them to cry, so you give them the knife. That's not kind. So he says, if you do that, that's animalistic. So I just wanted to bring a quick story to sort of put this into perspective a little bit. So many years ago, wasn't that many, but like a few years ago, like 8 years ago now, I was one time in 770. It was a long story. I was helping someone, and I noticed it was like this plate of like Danishes inside 770, which is not normally where they are. And after some research, actually it was a year of Hakel. And so they did this thing, it's called Hakel Chassidus. They try to get people to come together and learn Chassidus. So in 770, there would be like a certain designated area for Anash, meaning not Bachrim, they're learning Yeshiva, but like regular working people to come and sit and learn Chassidus before they go to work. And in order to incentivize it, they brought like some food and some coffee, Danishes. So I was like, oh, that's so interesting. So in my head, I calculated a little bit, and I said, if I wanted to come and go get a Danish, I have to get up extra early. And then, meaning, essentially, I wanted the Danish, and if I needed to come and learn Chassidus, I'll eat the Danish to learn Chassidus. And then I said to myself, you're going to get up extra early just to get a Danish? Yeah, that's not a Chassidus. But then, and so I sort of, I'm like, oh, I'm not going to do it. I'm like, 1 second. What's the problem? So I'll get the Danish, but I'll get to learn Chassidus. Isn't that the point? And I said, I realized it was Yetzer Hara telling me to be frum and not get the Danish and then not get up. So I'm going to get up, get the Danish, and I'm going to learn Chassidus. And I did. And it gave me the ability to get up and learn every morning. And it was early. And I haven't stopped since. I had some breaks, but I've been learning constantly, and I still do it. Thanks to the Danish. So the lesson that we're learning here, I think, is a very important understanding of learning who we are and learning when the Yetzer Hara. So in my case, the Yetzer Hara was coming to tell me not to eat the Danish, but really it was coming to tell me because he knew if I'd eat the Danish, I'd get up and I'd learn Chassidus. So it was stopping me. And I think it's very important to understand when we learn these things, we got to like internalize the messages. Because if we don't, then we say to ourselves, oh, I want the Danish and I'm bad. And that's the lowest level. I'm like an animal. But when we understand the message and when we internalize it, we understand how to apply it and to realize that actually, in this case, I should have the Danish. You know what I mean? This time when we go through these things, and when I first learned this years ago, and I was a little less understanding of Chassidus, you take everything straight. I'm a bad person if I like animalistic things and I like food. I'm bad, and I should not care about it, and I should just care about learning Torah, which is sort of the highest level. But in the process of getting there, and the stuff that we do in between, it could be that the Danish is the best thing for us, and it could be, and really, it's about learning who we are and learning our taivas and learning what gets us going and what motivates us and things like this. and another quick example that if we find learning, like here we're saying learning is the highest. We're going to talk about that today, actually. That learning is the highest. So you're going to say learning. When I first read that, when I learned it years ago, I was like, I get it technically, but like I have no connection to that. So we got to say to ourselves, if it's telling me this is truth, Teres Emes, so it must be true. So therefore, it also means to me that I can be the highest and the most geschmack. So let me see what I need to do. And it could be talking to a friend or for ring with a mashpia or something and figuring it out. Okay, let's jump into it. Perek Gimel. So before we were saying there's different levels. There's level of pleasure, different levels of pleasure. Pleasure in food, more animalistic type of pleasures. Then there's pleasure in music, which is more spiritual, more refined. And then there's a pleasure in doing kindness. And we talked about that. That could be even done on a baseline animalistic pleasure, like the food, or it could be done with seichel, which is the way it's meant to be. And then it's a deep pleasure. I like speaking to someone, and I talked about being happy and when do you feel happy? And they said when the happiest they felt was when they gave of themselves. And I was reading a book about tzedakah, and it says there's a study in like Harvard that it's not about the amount of money you made equates to the amount of happiness you were. Besides baseline, if you had enough baseline, but once you've reached baseline amount of money, more money and spending more money on yourself didn't make you happier. But what made it happier was the charity that they gave. That people that gave more charity, they felt happier. So this is a high level. Now we're talking about intellect. Above all these pleasures we just talked about, this is the pleasure in intellect and wisdom. Just like when you realize a new idea, you hop a new idea. Could be you learn something, you read something like, wow, let me think about this. Wow, that's so interesting. There's a wondrous pleasure. So when you understand something, you think about something, you learn and you understand it well, it also feels really good. So it's a deep pleasure. But part of this also is learning it well, that it commensurate with the effort and the understanding is the pleasure. Meaning we learn something, it's like a nice idea, so we should learn it again and really get into it. And the more when you do that, then you really get that type of pleasure. And this is the true pleasure, in the highest form, be'emes. But on condition, he says in the brackets, that teva of amitisi, that the wisdom itself that you're learning and you're connecting with is true and good. If it's like figuring out how to do something negative, so then it's not, it might have a level of that pleasure, but it's not the right thing we're talking about here. Because if the chachma, the wisdom is negative, is bad by itself, this is forbidden. But you can't even learn this. So for sure, that's not the pleasure we're talking about. But Adam, in a person, which we have the traces of creation, and this is a fundamental principle we've got to instill within us. We are the traces. We are the purpose of everything. Our pleasure should be in spiritual things. See, if we're having a pleasure in reading, in learning something that's contradictory to Torah, we have to say to ourselves, I shouldn't be doing this because this is not who I am. I'm above this. I should be learning kosher things. Yeah, you have to have pleasure in the spiritual things, meaning the learning of Torah subjects. When it comes to wisdom. And this should be the pleasure. Because this is the mila, this is the advantage, the specialness, this is the unique quality of us over the rest of creations, which is we have intellect, we have the ability to think. Other creations, animals and stuff, they don't think. They don't have the ability to really think. It's not critical thinking. They can think how to capture prey, but to think above that, and much higher, that they don't have. But nefesh maskelos, and now nefesh is a thinking soul. Befrat mitzad nefesh elikis, and even more so, we have a nefesh elikis. Shabai mibechinas chachmei la kiyudua. It's coming from the level of chachmei la, the supernal wisdom. So it's connected with wisdom. B'tarach liyois kol haskala hamshachas nafshay v'chol cheftzoi magmasoi, and therefore all its drawing of its soul, where it's trying to go to, it's basic chachmas haTorah. It's learning the wisdom of Torah. Ubezeh tis aneg nafshay, and with this your soul will have pleasure and delight. And through that you raise up your soul. Be'ilui, hamaylos, and above with the smile of a madrega, and to a level which is the purpose of creation. Meaning, when we're learning Torah, we're understanding, we're connecting with it, we're reaching the heights. This is the purpose. This is it. This is the success, so to speak. And it doesn't mean necessarily just learning, a chumash or whatever, chassidus, or whatever. It could be any like also books and sfarim, different, in English. But connecting with Torah, that's where it could reach. Behold, called everything that was created in the world. Everything has a purpose. Everything has a purpose, a reason. Is called Davar, and the ultimate of everything is when we go up to a level above us. That's the goal. That we should raise ourselves to a better level. We shouldn't coast. We for whatever reason in life we're brought up like I want to just chill and coast. But what we really want is to reach potential and get up higher. So how do we do that? Just like, for example, the growth. Is when plants are eaten by animals, so they're raising it up to a high level. And the plants get raised up to a high level. And the ultimate of the animal is when we consume it. And what's where do we go up? When we go up to spiritual levels, which is above us. We're in physical worlds and we deal with physical things. But when we go and we learn Torah and we connect and we go to a high level, we have connected to the spirituality. For example, like the Torah, which is Hashem's wisdom and will. And Hashem and His Torah are all one. So therefore, when a person learns Torah, like we're doing now, and he puts in the effort to really understand it. My son's trying to learn Gemara. I keep on trying to explain to him that the real geschmack is when you understand it. You have to not just read and translate it. It's fresh, it's new. So they're just reading, they're just translating, and you could get a feeling of this is good when I can read and translate. So you have to understand the background. What's the question, and what is the answer? Like we have to sit on it. You can't just run through it. You gotta slow. And when we do this in our own level, own version of this, we unite ourselves with Hashem, which is this wondrous unity. Like it says in Tanya, Aleph Parakeh, like it says in Tanya Parakeh, it talks about the union that happens to learning Torah. But this is something like we read it and we hear about it, and we probably heard of it in Tanya, but we got to sit down and think about it a little bit, and like we're about to learn something throughout the day, sort of space out on. I got to appreciate that when I learn Torah, I connect with Hashem in a way that it's wondrous, that it doesn't exist in any other way, and this is what I'm achieving when I'm learning Torah. And that's, and so when we do that, then we come to learn Torah, and then we think about, like we said before, we are the choice of creation. And we talk about to ourselves, we have to raise ourselves up to a level above us, which is through learning Torah, and through connecting with making some time in the day to learn something Jewish, whether it's chitas or just even a sefer and a chassid or something, There's plenty of books. My wife is a bookaholic, and she always getting these books. There's a new book about the issue of the masmid, learn about these things, connecting with these things. That raises up to a level above us, and we should feel proud when we do that. Every day that we do that, I've raised myself up. I'm fulfilling the purpose of why I'm here. Whereas, like we said before, if we don't, just we got to remind ourselves, I'm the choice of creation. So I should live up to that standard. Yeah. We'll stop here, and tomorrow, Mr. Hashem, we'll finish up this parak. Like I said before, I don't want to overrun how much we do. And everyone should have an amazing day. Should think about what we learned. And the best is if you have a chance, you do chazar on this. Not long, and just you run through it, and it will connect with you. Right? Like for me, I try to learn once I'm learning ahead, but when I go over the second time, it's like it's so much more powerful, and you see so many things you didn't see the first time. So Mitzvah Shem, by all of us, we should have the geschmack in Torah. And if I manage to do it, then everyone can do it. Mitzvah Shem, by all of us, have an amazing day.